What a night in the Champions League. I saw Liverpool demolish Karabag. We knew it would be mad. But that was insane, wasn't it? And I thought I was going to be the really happy one today. I'd seen 6 goals. Chelsea had snuck through to the top 6. Not even the top 8, top 6 they were in. Chelsea, well done. But listener, viewer, pod fan member, after Chelsea and Benfica both stole the show in the Champions League, we have had to peel Scott Minto off the ceiling. Unbelievable scenes. Scott, more teams than Robbie Keane Minto. How are you?
I'm very good, mate. Very happy. Almost as happy as Jose Mourinho.
Well, Jose Mourinho dancing down the touchline, reminiscent of Old Trafford way back when, 2003, what was it? Picking up the ball boy, celebrating in style. Anatoly Trubin with the goal, flying in. Everybody went crazy. I don't think anybody has celebrated that many people. I mean, apparently, Benfica are one of the most supported clubs in the world, and that was one of their taglines many, many years ago, right? They had the biggest membership, didn't they, in the world in terms of supporters. But I don't think that many people have celebrated a Benfica goal before. The whole world had its eyes on it because it was really late in the night. All the other games had finished, and that was the last kick of Champions League action. It was absolutely sensational, wasn't it?
Do you know what? And obviously, I played in the old stadium rather than a new one, but I know how passionate those fans are. And trust me, I mean, listening to Jose afterwards saying he was told and made subs that 3-2 was good enough. And when he was told it wasn't, he said, I was very upset. So you can only imagine the expletives coming out of his mouth at that particular time. So for the keeper to step up, and I mean, what a header. I mean, and Shearer would have been proud of that header as well.
I know, right? I honestly, I watched it again this morning, and I sat there and I was saying to my son, that is an unbelievable header. It's not just a brilliant moment. It's an unbelievable header. It's absolutely terrific. By the way, could you imagine being the person that gave Jose Mourinho the wrong information about the scoreline required to get into the top 24? That's not great for your future employment prospects, I don't think.
No, it was a sensational moment. The fact that, as you've said, the goalkeeper was time-wasting moments before, and then, to come up with that, I mean, that's a header that any centre-forward in the world will be proud of. But it was just a brilliant night, wasn't it? I've got to say, Jim Proudfoot on commentary did a fantastic job working out all the permutations. My game was quite straightforward because Tottenham just had to win. They did that with relative comfort against a very poor Frankfurt side, and a few people said, well, how have Tottenham finished 4th in the Champions League when they're struggling so much in the Premier League? And then you look at the list of teams they've played. I'm not taking anything away from the achievement, but it would have almost been harder not to qualify in the top 8 if you're Thomas Frank.
Well, it's interesting because one of my questions to you was they finished 4th with 17 points. Like Liverpool, they've had contrasting fortunes in the Premier League and in continental football. Why is it? And then as I'd written that down last night, you sent me a screenshot of all of their fixtures without me asking you. And something I think I remember saying when the draw came out, they did get a little bit fortunate with the draw, but you've got to play the teams that are in front of you, right? And they did their job. And for all the problems that Thomas Frank have had, I mean, there was a moment last night when they were 0-0. So they weren't doing anything, Tottenham, but they kept rising up the table. It was like, sometimes it's better just to stand still, fellas. I don't think you can criticize them for that. But he has to sort of translate that into domestic achievements now as well, doesn't he? I mean, one of the reasons why I think the Champions League is easier for Tottenham and for Liverpool is the physicality, right? I think games in the European competitions are less physical. It means that if you've got new players or players that are coming from the continent, they don't have to settle because they can play their game. There's not as many low blocks. I think Anthony Gordon talks about this in the build-up to the game with PSG. More of a football match rather than a physical contest. Scott, have you noticed that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, let's say well done to Thomas Frank and to Spurs as well. But I think the fixtures were a lot easier, certainly the home ones. And if you look at the teams that they played against, again, especially at home, I mean, apart from the Dortmund one, where they did play really well, even 11v11. How many of those would be in the Premier League? And if they were in the Premier League, where would they be in the Premier League? So the style of football is very, very different. I think it definitely suits that certain players. It's brutal. Premier League plus Champions League is absolutely brutal. So look, well done to Thomas Frank. He's under a lot of pressure. and that should have taken a lot of the pressure off them.
I love that Newcastle United goal, made by Dan Burn, finished by Joe Willock. I love that Liverpool flexed their muscle despite more injury problems. Jeremy Frimpong picking up a problem inside the first 2 minutes of that game. I love the Benfica keeper and Jose. I'm delighted for the glorious Bodo Glimt. Did anybody see that? Bodo Glimt into the top 24. Fantastic. I can't wait for the playoffs. It's going to be mental. And I maintain this view, as Crook will tell you, I've been banging on about this for ages. No English team should, they will do, because that's what happens in football, and football's different, but no English team should be beaten by anyone in Europe apart from Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, and Barcelona, because nobody else has the ability or any other comparable financial clout to deal with what the Premier League teams bring to the party. And that's why you're seeing the domination that we've seen in the Champions League.
I understand what you're saying, Sam, but I think Bodo Glimt is an example of that. Maybe an extreme example where City should be able to deal with it. But going away from home in the Champions League when they're playing, it's almost like that sort of Championship or League One versus Premier League. And I don't mean to, be derogatory towards some of the Champions League teams, but this is their big game. So you're absolutely right. The powerhouses of the Premier League, they should win every time, but it's why we get FA Cup upsets and why we'll get Champions League upsets as well.
It was brilliant. And sometimes I think people, when change happens, they're not entirely convinced by what is laid out in front of them. But the format's been great, Crook.
Yeah, it has. The fact so few teams have been knocked out, I think, is still maybe a stick to beat it with. But you look at the playoffs. I mean, you sent the list of the sort of top 8 teams in the playoffs last night. It's an incredible shortlist, and all power to the Premier League for the fact they have got 5 of their 6 teams straight through to the round of 16. But yeah, I think the new format has worked well. There's still going to be occasions where teams get a whooping. But look, even Kairat only lost 3-2 at Arsenal. I know Arsenal made a lot of changes, but fair play to them. That was a really good performance to end their campaign with.
So English teams flying in the Champions League, but in the Premier League, they're finding things just a little bit more difficult, including the leaders Arsenal, who are 3 without a win.